Welcome back to another episode of 40 Facts About the 40K Universe. I am your host, Gersh1, and you are watching One Mind Syndicate. Today we continue talking about Space Marine chapters with your guys' viewer requests. If you guys have any requests for specific Space Marine chapters that you guys would like us to create a video for, please comment down below. Don't forget to put suggestion followed by whatever Space Marine chapter you want us to talk about. Let's get into 40 Facts About the Space Wolves. The Space Wolves, known in their own dialect of Jumka as the Vulcan Fenrika, or Wolves of Fenris, are one of the original 20 first founding Space Marine legions, and were once led by their famed Primarch, Leman Russ. Once the 6th Legion of Astartes, raised by the Emperor at the dawn of the Great Crusade, the Space Wolves are renowned for their anti-authoritarian ways and their embrace of their own homeworld, Fenris' savage barbarian culture, as well as their extreme deviation from the Codex Astartes in the chapter's organization. Since the days of the 6th Legion's inception on Terra, the Space Wolves have remained a legion apart from its fellows, its origins shrouded as it garners a fearsome reputation for its warriors' prowess as a shock assault force, as well as a tireless pursuers and a peerless hunter-killer force. Unexpected violence was the Legion's calling card, its campaigns unsubtle but brutally swift. Like their later-day namesake, the Wolves of Old Terra, its warriors' assaults were calculated exercises in ferociousness, aimed to tear and rend until the foe lay in ruins or was driven to its death. Conditioned to hold a near-suicidal disregard for danger, and trained to exploit this to the fullest on the battlefield, the heavy infantry that formed the core of the 6th Legion's battalions were a force that had been honed in battle against the countless enemies of mankind, and it was whispered against their own wayward brothers. Unlike their brother legions, the Space Wolves were kept under tight control of the Imperial Court and unleashed on the Emperor's command as often to chastise those who failed on their oath of service as to destroy those who resisted the offer of compliance. The implants of the Space Wolves were developed from the genetic helix, later to be known as the Calyx helix, of Leman Russ. At this time, the Emperor had no idea where the Primarchs were, or if they had ever survived their ordeal. Only later, during the Great Crusade itself, was the Emperor able to recover the Primarchs one by one. By then, they had grown to adulthood, amongst whatever human civilizations existed on the worlds on which their incubation pods had landed. Many Primarchs crashed upon uncivilized worlds, or grew up amongst deadly and inhospitable environments. The Primarch of the Space Wolves had landed upon the icy death world of Fenris, his incubation pod plummeting down in the flanks of a vast mountain. Given the harshness of the Ferenzian climate, it is safe to say that a lesser being would have died almost immediately upon his arrival. Emerging from his smoking capsule, the infant Primarch soon encountered a deadly Mother Thunderwolf. He was doomed, yet fate, it seemed, had other ideas. Sensing in a feral youth a kindred spirit, the giant she-wolf did not kill the transhuman child, but instead raised him alongside her cubs as one of her own. The Imperium's records concerning the Space Wolves' heritage and Russ's origins owe much to the life's work of Gennaro the Eldar, a contemporary of the ancient Fenrisian king Thengir. Nuril's saga, The Ascension of the Wolf King, tells of one fateful hell winter when the feral wolf child was discovered by a hunting party of Fenrisian tribesmen. In a vicious confrontation, the wolf mother was slain by their spears and arrows, along with many of her cubs. The Primarch fought with terrible fury, slaying a dozen warriors with nothing but his bare hands to protect the 2 surviving packmates, Frankie and Gary. It was then that fate intervened once more. One of the tribesmen at last recognized the Primarch for what he was, human, not wolf, and called for his fellow huntsmen to lower their weapons. The bloodied youth stood his ground, fangs bared, but understood their peaceful gesture and stayed away. Unsure quite what to do, the tribesmen brought the young Primarch and his wolf kin, for he would not part with them, before the court of King Thengir of Russ tribe. The aging chieftain saw the undeniable potential in the young man and ordered that he be given a place within his household, there to be raised as a true Fenrisian, as a warrior. Amongst his own kind for the first time, Lehman quickly learned his skills, showing a natural aptitude for the ways of a warrior. He learned to speak and mastered their primitive weapons. As the Primarch grew to maturity, he became the greatest of their number by far, leading the tribe's warriors to 1,000 victories and more. The Wolf King became a living legend across Fenris. It was only a matter of time before word of his fame reached the ears of one who apparently sought news of his lost sons. The Emperor united with Leman Russ after the legendary 3 challenges that the Primarch gave his father. To learn more about Leman Russ and his Primarch story, please check out our 40 facts on the Primarch Leman Russ. Spiriting the Great Wolf King away from Fenris, the Emperor began Russ's tutelage in the ways and technology of his star-spanning Imperium. The Primarch's teachings and trainings went swiftly. It was only a matter of weeks before the Emperor judged Russ worthy of leading his armies in the Great Crusade across the galaxy. Leman Russ was introduced to the warriors of the 6th Legion of Space Marines, who had been created through the implantation of gene seed organs that had been grown from his own DNA. And so it came to be that Leman Russ became the father, progenitor, and lord of the newly named SpaceWolves Legion of the Legiones Astartes, and joined the glorious action of the Great Crusade. Throughout the long and difficult battles of the Great Crusade, the SpaceWolves and their Lupin allies, drawn from amongst the Fenrisian wolves, were always at the front lines. Russ strode at the head of his 6th Legion, slaughtering all who dare stand before him, his coming announced by the howlings of the pack. Leman Russ fought well during the Great Crusade, gaining a reputation as a cunning and fierce, if slightly unstable, Imperial warrior and Astarte leader. At the time, the warriors of Russ referred to themselves as the Wolves of Fenris, or more simply, the Root. Most Astartes of the 6th Legion bristled at the title SpaceWolves, as it was the foolish name given to them by off-worlders who recognized none of their customs and traditions. One of the earliest recorded campaigns of the 6th Legion took part in the mid-800th year of the 30th millennium. This was a massive joint compliance campaign that included multiple Legion Astartes, including the Iron Warriors and the White Scars, as well as thousands of troops of Imperialis Auxilia and Mechanicum assets. They were charged with the eradication of the massive Orc horde of Wa Magash. Legends record that it was the Primarch Leman Russ and Jagatai Khan who fought the orcs of Overdog Mashog Zwa, while Perturabo was featured only as a comrade who calculated the optimum way to bypass Magash's low-orbit defenses. As the Space Marine legions pushed back the frontier of the Imperium, each Primarch strove to excel in the eyes of the Emperor, and none more so than Leman Russ, Primarch of the Space Wolves. Only Horus Lupercal of the Luna Wolves and Lionel Johnson of the Dark Angels could claim more victories than Russ, and this was a constant frustration for him. It was on the world of Dulin, where the Space Wolves were fighting alongside the Dark Angels, that matters came to a head. During a pacification war to bring Dulin into Imperial compliance, the Dark Angels Legion aided the Space Wolves, and the leader of this particular planet insulted Leman Russ's honor. As such, Russ wanted to defeat the leader personally for the insult. The Dark Angels and Space Wolves, both led by their respective Primarchs, assaulted the tower where the leader was located. Leman Russ bursted into the throne room just in time to see the Dark Angels Primarch, Lionel Johnson, beheading the world's leader with his mighty blade. Angry that the honor was not his, Leman Russ marched up to the Lion and punched him in the jaw. This led to a battle that lasted for days, or even more, until finally Russ saw how immature this squabble was and started laughing. Lionel Johnson took this action to be a direct insult to him because he mistakenly believed that Russ was mocking him with laughter, and so he punched Leman Russ once more and knocked his brother Primarch into unconsciousness before leaving the planet in a dark mood with his legion. The fight led to a bitter feud between the legions and its subsequent chapters, which lasted to this day. Although recent events may finally have led to an end to this rivalry, it is still customary for selected champions from both chapters to engage in a usually non-lethal duel whenever they meet in remembrance of this ancient feud. As the Great Crusade wore on, there were a number of those in the Imperial military who whispered that Angron was mad, and his World Eaters Legion had followed him into the madness. These whispers became openly voiced as widespread discontent and demands for censure, when stories began to circulate that Angron had ordered his apothecarion to conduct widespread psychosurgery and implantations of the so-called butcher's nail cranial implants after the infamous Genna massacre came to light. This action, undertaken at Angron's instigation, resulted in the entire planetary population that had rebelled against its installed imperial commander being wiped out in a single night of extraordinary bloodshed. After Genna, the emperor quickly moved to act and called Angron before him for reprimand. The emperor sent Lemanrus and his space wolves to Genna. Angron was to submit before them and be brought back in chains if need be to Terra for judgment and censure. Russ warned Angron that the Emperor had ordered the end of such prohibited surgery in the Legion. Though the Wolf King tried to talk sense into the blood-maddened brother, Angron refused to listen to reason. Eventually, with tensions rising on both sides, an inevitable confrontation took place. No one is exactly sure who started the melee, but Russ wisely chose to order his legion to withdraw, as both legions faced mutual annihilation if they continued this course. The World Eaters were later issued with orders to depart to the northern fringes of known space, there to fight and reave against Xenos far from the Imperium's core worlds. The lamentable confrontation came to be referred to as the Night of the Wolf. The Agoru campaign was an Imperial compliance action carried out by the then loyal Thousand Sons and a small contingent of the Space Wolf Legion in the waning years of the Great Crusade. The Imperial compliance of the world of Angrum was an action carried out by units of the Thousand Sons Legion that was achieved through diplomacy and was considered a success. Interestingly, the human population possessed ancient legends of a race of Eldar, being known as the Elohim, which might be analog for the Eldar. According to their mythology, a perverted and corrupt demonic force known as the Daishathi, who had succumbed to the corruption of the Atholi's self-obsession and hedonistic excess, were imprisoned within the massive artificially constructed peaks, designated by the Thousand Sons as the Mountain. The Thousand Sons Primarch, Magnus, was enthralled by the planet's mountain and the tomb of the dormant Daithasi. Upon further investigation within the artificial mountain, Magnus discovered that it was some kind of gateway with a web-like network of conceptual conduits, containing billions of pathways between the world. Unfortunately, a guru's link to the network had become corrupted by the warp and was ultimately sealed. Yet somehow, these demonic forces were inadvertently released from their imprisonment and took over the massive remnant Titan Guardians that stood sentinel over the mountain and began to attack Magnus and his Thousand Sons. These demons were only defeated by the combined efforts of the Crimson King, his Thousand Sons, and a contingent of the SpaceWolves 5th Grade Company, led by Jarl, who had recently arrived from the campaign in the Arc Reach cluster. The Primarch had initially been very angry at Jarl's demanding manner that was typical of the 6th Legion, and thus he had held off in giving the deputation a timely reply. After the conclusion of the battle, the Crimson King appreciated his cousin Legion's effort and designated a thank you to Jarl for his assistance. And those were 40 facts on the Space Wolves. Of course, this is not the end. We're probably going to have a part 2, part 3, probably even a part 10. The Space Wolves have so much lore because they are so badass. So please subscribe to the channel to get that. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Don't forget to turn on your notifications so you know when we upload, even though we upload, or we try to upload every single day at midnight. So every midnight you're going to get a new video for all you new people. And of course, share this on Facebook, Twitter, share this with your friends. We need to get the word out that One Mind Syndicate is giving you guys 40K videos every single day, because that's going to help us create more videos for you guys. Again, guys, thank you so much for your suggestions. Don't forget to keep commenting down below to let me know what kind of videos you guys want. And I'll catch you guys tomorrow. This was Gersh1 with One Mind Syndicate, signing out.